Listen to the grandpas back here. They're cool. Hi, it's Kerry from We the Female. And so I mentioned in a previous video that we're going to be doing some reviews of some pistols for women that have never shot or are really, really new to the gun industry, maybe not know the fancy language. And I certainly don't. And I couldn't walk into a gun store and tell you what's on the shelf without, pulling it close and things. So we pulled a few, and we're going to go over them individually. So hopefully you'll be able to pull some information out of this and take with you a little bit of knowledge when you go to that gun store or to the range. So the first one that we're going to be working with today is the Sig Sauer P365. This one's brand new, and we were kind of messing with this a little bit earlier, and so I felt like it was important to want to show you because I think that this is important for women. Yes, I have long nails, but yes, I can still load a magazine. So, but this one is a little bit trickier because it's got this kind of, see, and this is the stuff, this is why a woman needs to do this that doesn't shoot, because I don't know what this goofy little side of this thing is called, but it makes it kind of a pain in the ass to load it. So to get that first one in there, it's new, so because it's new, it's going to be a little bit tighter. I can't get it in there, that first one. So I had to use both hands and get that guy in there. So once it's in, though, you should be able to. So because my nails are longer, I tend to find that I have to push down. These, you're gonna have to edit this because these take me a while to do. Okay, so we're all loaded up, and we're loaded up in, I want to show you actually these. So these are the two different magazines that you can use. I prefer these with the, well, sometimes the extended mags I've noticed will have these too. I do know at least that much. These drop down, it's kind of a pinky rest, it comes down a little bit further. I prefer this because of the way my hand sits. My hand itself is really small, but I have really long fingers. So I prefer these for my pinky to kind of drop down. But you can kind of see the difference there. And so when you're actually going in to look at these in a store or even on a range, ask about that and ask them to change these magazines out so that you can see which one works better for your delicate sandwich making hands and see which one you like better. So we're going to go ahead and even in a store, because you don't need those men up your ass telling you, anything. Try to get some of those basics down. We'll post the four rules of gun safety and stuff, but you always want to make sure that you're keeping it in a safe position. Keep your finger off the trigger at all times until you're ready to shoot. So we're going to take this guy, we're going to put him in here. So the one thing about this particular pistol that I think is going to be an issue for women is that there's no safety. So I think if you're just starting out, with a firearm, maybe especially if you're a little bit older, you might be intimidated to go in to buy one already. And so that might be a concern for you with this particular one. If it's not, go ahead, because I think you'll like the way this feels because, so you notice it's got that extra like extension here. So my hand, it fits my hand really well. It sits really comfortable, sits in the palm of my hand where I like to have it personally, and I can wrap around, I can hit that mag release really well. That's what this is here. It's called a mag release, and this is what it does. And it takes that magazine out. You can put it back in, okay? So no safety. This is a slide release, not a safety. So, and a slide release is for when you rack it, and we'll go over that in a minute. So, yeah, so that would be probably a concern for some women. If it's not, what I would say is if you choose a pistol and it doesn't have a safety, you need to be really well trained, and you need to understand very clearly how to carry this if it's one that you decide to carry, because you don't have that extra protection, even psychologically, and sometimes just even psychologically that can help give you a better comfort level with it. So that's something to think about. So another thing that I've found for me personally, and that some of the feedback that I've gotten from women that are new to pistols and firearms is racking it. So this is a huge thing for me. I know my first pistol, I kind of went big, and for those gun people that are going to be watching and judging me, I chose a Kimber 1911, and it ended up, I'm actually going to have the spring replaced because I took it in and it's actually too tight. I cannot rack it. But one of the things that we want to do is we want to pull like this. And some of them are easy enough, like my everyday Kerry is. I can pop it like that. But it's better if you bring your hand around and hold this. So don't think about pulling, think about pulling or pushing. So, and once you realize that you've got the power to push it, it's still something I work on personally, and I sit at home and rack mine a lot to get myself in the habit of doing it because I want to pull. And because it's kind of an inherent thing, because when you rack it, it's moving back, so we think we want to pull back. But instead, you want to hold your hand tight here and you want to push it down like that. So since I'm here and we're having this conversation, so if you're watching these and you're kind of getting new to firearms and things, this is probably some information that would be good to kind of go over. Ladies, it's really easy to want to grab it from the bottom side, and I actually started that way, and it's not horrible, especially if you feel like it's secure. But when you get into, if you really want to get into serious training stuff, you want to not do that if you can, and start to get in the habit of coming up the side, in case, in the unlikely event this is forced down, it can hurt your hand, like if it pops out under force. And I'm sure that some damn gun person is gonna rake me over that one because I'm not explaining it right. But for those of us, for layman terms, it's basically, it's a safety issue. Bottom line is you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that you keep your hand under this slide, because if you keep it, if you look close, if you put your up here, when that pops back, when you fire, it can pinch your fingers, so you don't want to do that. So there's a couple of different ways to hold. One of the first ways that I was taught actually was like this. And for some people that's probably okay, but for me, the way that my fingers, I can't get this finger to line up and come over comfortably. So I come up underneath, and so I notice a lot of people actually do that. For me, that's really, really comfortable. And I can slide all the way up. But so here's an interesting thing. So I love my nails, and they're a little longer than I even usually keep them. But one of the things that when you are considering, I mean, you want to be mindful of, so I'm going to do something I technically shouldn't do, but when you put your finger here and I'm sliding up underneath, I'm hitting my nail. So that is the reason I have short nails or shorter, because when I do that and I'm actually firing, from the recoil, I can push down and it can change how I'm shooting. So you want to make sure that your hand comes all the way up underneath here. I'm sure there's a fancy name for it that we'll have Chad go over all that stuff. So I'm just here as a mom with a gun trying to teach you some of those basics that can help you pick one. So I'm going to come up underneath here. I'm a really bad shot, so because where I live, my options for training are limited, so I don't get to do it very much. But so one of the things that I think that that you need to look at when you're out looking, you can actually kind of pull that, kind of dry fire in some places. Depends on especially at a range, if you're renting at a range. But it's called like the pull. You'll hear people talk about that a lot. This one is a little bit tighter. And they're going to try to get into like, oh, you need to have this many pounds of pull and blah, 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 blah. And I get that. But really what it comes down to is how comfortable it's going to be for you. And you can get an idea of kind of like with a dry pull in a store. But you're really not going to get an idea of the full tension until you're ready to actually let off a round. So, I mean, ideally, if you're in a position where you can run at a range, that's obviously for many reasons the best, but it'll give you an idea of that pull. So this one's a little bit tighter. My everyday Kerry is the P238 micro, and it's a lot lighter than this one. However, I think for those of you that might be afraid that it's going to, like if you're afraid to carry one because you're afraid it might discharge, this one would make you feel comfortable knowing that wouldn't be the case, but is not going to be so hard that you can't pull it if you actually needed to use your firearms. So I think that might be a decent option for you. The other thing that you might like, so this is, I will tell you this because this is one thing that I feel is kind of good to know. This is what's called a single stack, which means that got one out. So they all line up together as opposed to kind of back and forth, and those tend to carry a little bit more. But for a single stack one, this one holds 10 rounds. And so that is, like my micro I think holds 8 or 9. So you get extra, you get that extra round too with it. And so for a smaller gun, that would be a good one that if you want to carry it on you every day. I knew I was going to like this going in because I like this manufacturer a lot, and I think that they make a really good firearm for new people to the gun, you know, wanting to carry a gun. But I wouldn't bias with that. But certainly, I mean, if it was not comfortable, I would tell you. So one of the other things that, ladies, you can think of when you're looking is, you see how they all have different kind of grips on them. So there's a little bit of texture on it that is stock, and you'll find that, I mean, people go off the rails with all this kind of stuff. But I like this one because it doesn't hurt my hand when I'm holding it, but it doesn't make it feel like it's going to slip either. So that's something to consider when you're coming in, because some of them can be really rough and they can actually be kind of uncomfortable in your hand. So I knew it going in that I was going to like this. I'm a fan. So this is the Sig Sauer P365, and I think that for you women out there that are wanting to check out guns and never shot one and wanting to look to buy one, this one would be a good one for you. So you can check that one out. Thanks.